studied aerospace engineering at the Naval Academy, and I was really interested in how airplanes work, how they fly, and how we can make them better. So the idea of going and dedicating a year to the engineering mindset of being a test pilot, and then going and flying airplanes and figuring out how they're working and how to make them better was really appealing to me. So I did that for a couple years, and then it was I had a choice of whether to stay in or get out and go to the reserves. And my family was more important to me than the military at that point. So and about the same time, a part-time job with Boom opened up as the landing signal officer. So that got my foot in at the door, and then the test pilot job opened up with Boom, and I was all in at that point. Yeah. So why Boom though, as opposed to like going and doing tests for like Boeing or
Mm.
Airbus or something like that? Uh, I, Boom is really exciting to me. The idea of pushing boundaries and expanding horizons is really exciting. I spent a year in Denmark when I was a kid, and so like, and also been to other places around the world. But the travel is just it's hard, it's difficult, it's time consuming, and so it's kind of a limitation, right? If we could cut down that travel time and make the world effectively smaller, like think about the experiences people could have. Like think about how much easier it would be to visit places like the UK uh or Asia. Do I ever get scared? I wouldn't say I've ever been scared. There were definitely some flights that I was nervous for, like the first time I went to land on an aircraft carrier. I had a hard time sleeping that night.
Oh,
Uh, some of some of the important flights for qualifications, I got nervous for those. Interestingly enough, though, the flight in XB1, I really wasn't that nervous for. Yeah, we had the the team was in place. Like I had been working with this team. I know this airplane better than any airplane I've ever flown. So I knew we had a solid team and a solid plan. And the weather was good. We had the airplane and chase pilot ready to go. So everything was in place. Looking at the cockpit video, I could see, you know, as we were as we were approaching the brake release, so that the chase pilot will call my brake release so that we can take off and join up almost immediately. And so he gives me a 10 seconds call. And in that video, I can see my chest like really increases. And I remember feeling a little bit nervous there, like, oh man, this is really happening. This airplane's only flown for 12 minutes so far. This is a brand new airplane. Like all of those things were going through my head. And then he calls for my brake release, and I release the brakes, and the throttles go into full afterburner. I feel the acceleration. And then it's like, oh, okay, I know how to do this. Like this is what I've been training for. Overture will be going when we're cruising, we'll be going twice as fast as a typical airliner does now. So when we're talking in those speeds, it's easier to speak in terms of Mach number as opposed to knots. So a typical airliner cruises at Mach 0.85 or 85% of the speed of sound. Overture will cruise at 1.7, so twice as fast. Now we
yes.
will have to obviously we'll be slower than that for takeoff and landing. And right now, we're not planning on flying supersonic over land either. Um, the first generation of Overture will be purely supersonic over water because that allows us to operate within the existing laws, the existing regulations. And then that will allow us to put something out there. And then our next iteration will allow us to take advantage of some of the technology that's being developed by people like NASA with their X-59 project, looking to shape the supersonic boom and make it significantly quieter. Yeah, we believe that life happens in person. A meeting is so much more effective when you can shake hands and talk to a person face to face. Time spent with family or friends is so much better in person than it is via screen, right? Part of the reason the Concorde isn't flying anymore is just because it wasn't a sustainable business model. That the flights were so expensive that the average person just couldn't afford to take those. Our goal is to make it affordable. And the goal is to have, like I said, they're going to be all business class seats, and so it should be comparable to a business class on like a 777. So if you have the option of choosing a business class seat on a wide body that takes you 6 hours to get somewhere, or a comparable fare to spend half as much time in the air, then I personally would choose the one that got me there faster.